the intro. Right? At the greatest bar on 262 French Street. Welcome to the Dirty Water News Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host and reigning flag football champion, MVP. They called me Randy Moss in the league. Nick Lesegor. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Lesegor. I'm alongside my co-host. He won something this weekend. We'll get to it some point, I'm sure, and I'm almost positive he wasn't the best player on his team. But the best player on his team is in this room. You can follow him on Twitter at Uncle Stav. He's also a writer for yummybro.com. Steve, what's going on, man?
Nothing. Apparently you played flag football.
That's right. And I thought, did I make it off? Was I subtle? I feel like I should have been a little more obvious.
Nah, you just threw some minor hints in there, but I got the point. Randy Moss post, 2007, like 2009 Randy Moss.
I may or may not have
Tennessee Titan Randy Moss.
I may or may not have a highlight reel somewhere.
Okay, San Francisco 49er Randy Moss to my right.
It is episode 14. We have an awesome episode for you tonight. Craig Power, who is a good friend of both of ours, he ran the celebrity softball tournament that Steve played in and I attended. And we're going to talk to him tonight about the tournament, maybe get into a little bit of fantasy football talk, and hopefully kill two birds with one stone here. You can follow our anchor, actually, who she isn't here.
She's right here.
We did fire her and then rehired her on the last show, and I'm kind of leaning towards firing her again because she doesn't want to show up. And
she's doing a great job right now.
That's right. Her name is Caitlin David. You can follow her on Twitter at Caitlin Jean.
Hi, Caitlin.
We miss you a little bit. You can read my pieces on dirtywaternews.com. I do a weekly piece for them, fantasy football based. I am a self-proclaimed guru, but Steve would tell you differently. Steve, why don't we start off the show by getting into the front page?
Flash, exclusive. Here's front page news.
Starting out in Cleveland, Browns wide receiver Miles Austin is listed on the top of the Browns wide receiver depth chart going in with Josh Gordon on the other side. Steve, what do you make of it?
The entire Cleveland fantasy perspective revolves off Josh Gordon to me. Like, if he's out there, I am almost buying on basically every skill position player they have, from quarterback to the two running backs to tight end and even to, Andrew Hawkins. In the slot. I'm almost buying everybody, but without Josh Gordon, I'm really not buying too much in Cleveland if they're selling anything.
You think listen, obviously guy was an all-world last year, but what about Jordan Cameron? What about Ben Tate? You mentioned last week something to the effect of that you weren't too high on Ben Tate. I'm not sure I understand that.
Well, with Gordon out, defenses are going to stack the box. They're going to put 8 in the box, preventing the run game, and that's going to affect Jordan Cameron to me. The benefit might be Miles Austin and Andrew Hawkins. If you're a losing team, you're going to be throwing the ball late. I'm a big advocate of taking players or having them on your bench at least for losing teams. So Miles Austin, who right now isn't getting drafted in many leagues, might be a guy in the 16th round you can kind of take a sleeper on. But with Josh Gordon, not in the field, he just hurts them. I really think big time.
Obviously, him being gone hurts him. That goes without saying. But I think that Miles Austin is a guy that if he can stay healthy, having back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 2009 and 2010, Granted, Brian Hoyer is not Tony Romo, but even to more of an effect, Tony Romo hasn't been Tony Romo the past few seasons. But I think Miles Austin, when healthy, can give you something. In terms of fantasy, naturally that doesn't always translate. But in fantasy, I think that his 14th round ADP is something that if you want to take a flyer on him and maybe, get something, he's naturally going to be a bench guy, but he might be able to give you something. Brian Hoyer, I looked it up yesterday. Brian Hoyer loved him some Jordan Cameron in the 3 games he played last season. 5 touchdowns, I think, the first 3 games for Jordan Cameron, something insane. So Hoyer loves his tight ends, but I think that you're going to be down, in some games. I actually think they'll compete because I think their defense is so good. So I think that down the stretch he's going to throw the ball, and I think that it's worth taking a flyer on, considering some of the guys in that round. I mean, I would rather take a flyer on him in the 14th than Kendall Wright in the 11th. I just think that for the value, I think his ceiling to get 1,000 yards, if he can stay healthy, health is naturally a major concern with this guy. So if he can stay healthy, he can do something for sure. He can make a little bit of damage in the league. Fantasy, that remains to be seen.
I mean, he's only 30 years old, so he's not, over the bridge yet, they could say. I mean, he's going downhill, but he still could be productive if he's out there.
I mean, the one thing that troubles me about Miles Austin, last quick hit, only one season with double-digit touchdowns. So I think that's a little concerning. So the Chicago Bears suspended tight end Martellus Bennett after he got into a dust-up with rookie cornerback Kyle Fuller. You may want to do the headlines tonight. On Monday, he ended up getting kicked off the field. In terms of Martellus Bennett, is his temper something that worries you as a fantasy footballer who likes drafting tight ends late?
I never knew he had this kind of side of him until I saw this video. The video is kind of hilarious if you watch it. The rookie Fuller just went in and tried to strip the ball from him, and Bennett, being a veteran, didn't like the way that the rookie Fuller just kind of threw him on the ground, and he got up and started jawing him in the face. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
I think looking at the video, and not to cut you off, but it was like kind of embarrassing. Like I'm watching it, and I'm
just
embarrassed.
Got thrown down by a rookie.
Not even that aspect, just the aspect that when he threw down Fuller, like Fuller didn't try to defend himself, so I felt bad for like Fuller to a degree. It was embarrassing for Bennett because it's like, dude, you've been in this league for so many years.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah,
and I understand watching the video. I understand why they suspended him.
And Bennett had a great year last year. We can bring it back to stats and fantasy wise right here. He had a great year. He had 750 yards and 5 touchdowns. And, as someone like myself who's looking at tight ends later on in the draft, and Bennett fits that mold around the 10th round, him, Clay, I am a little, suspicious about this. What if he does this to his own teammates? What's he going to do to another guy? Take his helmet off and get in another fight and be suspended?
I'm not overly concerned about him in terms of a fantasy standpoint, him doing something stupid to get kicked out of a game. He hasn't shown that history, so I'm not overly concerned about it. But to your earlier point, the 750 and 5, I see both of those numbers going up if Cutler can stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And all the numbers his entire career from year to year have essentially gone up. I think there were a couple of years in the middle there where his yards dipped, but I think overall his numbers have gone up. So 96 targets last season for Bennett, and I think that number has major potential to go over 100 if Cutler can stay healthy, and I think that's a major concern. Packers undrafted tight end Colt Laeria is going to miss a few weeks with a knee injury.
I mean, it's a lot of people haven't heard about this guy because he was kicked off of Oregon last year, got in some trouble. The talent, is there, but obviously he's going to be missing a couple weeks. So, Andrew Corliss, is it Corliss?
Corliss? Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to step back in. He filled in for Finley last year when Finley got basically damaged. And he stepped in and he did okay. But who's going to benefit or help step up, as you say? The rest of the wide receivers, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, and Jarrett Boykins. They're the ones who are going to step up and get more passes thrown their way by Aaron Rodgers.
I think this may be a situation where you see Aaron Rodgers hand the ball off more now that he doesn't have Jermichael Finley. A report from somebody I've known and a report I've read, Aaron Rodgers has been pulling Packers brass to re-sign Jermichael Finley. He wants Jermichael Finley in Green Bay, and rightly so. He may just get that, too, if Finley proves he's healthy. In terms of the Packers tight end situation, I don't find them to be relevant unless you're in a dynasty league, and I think the upside of Laeria is certainly he had a nice OTA and minicamp session for the week or two. So I think that you might want to draft him if you're in a dynasty league, but other than that, I think Jarrett Boykin makes out really well in this. I think more than him and Eddie Lacy, I think could really see the benefit the most from not having a solid tight end there in Green Bay. And lastly, Chris Ivory is hurt again. We covered this. We covered Chris Ivory lightly over the course of our 14 or so episodes. Yep. I like him this year. I feel like the jury's out with you a little bit. I feel like you're more of a Chris Johnson guy than an Ivory guy.
I just think Chris Johnson is going to get the first carries. I think he's the first guy on the depth chart. Chris Ivory, I really like the way he runs. He runs hard, and I know Rex Ryan likes that. He kind of took every snap away from Powell towards the end of the season last year and had a pretty good year.
Right.
I like Ivory a lot in the goal line because he is, big and strong. But I like Chris Johnson getting the yards. And Rex Ryan likes to run the ball. Chris Johnson, maybe he can get back to that form.
He speaking of Ivory, he left the game with a rib injury, and Rex Ryan came out after the game and said he was going to be all right. If he can stay healthy, he's gonna do two things. One, he's going to be a good running back if he can stay healthy, and two, he's going to both frustrate and excite a lot of fantasy footballers because you have guys who are steadfast for CJ2K. Mm-hmm. You're going to have at least one guy in every draft who is super high on Chris Johnson. So I think that instead of grabbing Chris Johnson, who's going as high as the 4th round, late 3rd, that's crazy for a guy that is going to be in a possible timeshare situation. I think it's a little too crazy for me to take him when you could have Ivory much later in the draft. And I think the injury risk is certainly much higher with Ivory. But I think in terms of a guy like Chris Johnson, it's just too early. And I think that recent reports have surfaced that from the Jets, I think it was the running backs coach or the offensive coordinator came out and said Ivory's going to get goal line work. So I think that, in terms of Ivory, 6 total touchdowns last year, 3 rushing and 3 receiving. That's kind of really good. I mean, for a guy that can't stay healthy, to have 3 rushing touchdowns, I think that it was surprising to me to see those. I think he had like 2 in 2 games. I think that it was really surprising to see those types of numbers. But his yards per carry totals last season, 4.33, 7.72, and that was 18 carries for 139 yards versus New Orleans. They obviously didn't have a good run defense last season, and any running back you had going up against New Orleans was an automatic start. They were miserable against the run. But 6.53, 5.08, 4.22, and 6.0, and then another 5.45. The guy gets the most out of his carries.
And he's kind of a beast. he reminds you of a Marshawn Lynch type back when he does run. It's unfortunate that he hasn't gotten the reins out of place. Hey, this is your backfield, take over.
Right.
Because he is just a monster. I want to say he led the league in yards after contact because he just runs straight up the middle, hits you, and he's going to keep going forward just like Lynch. I'm a big fan of Ivory. I like Chris Johnson, but I'm not buying him as high as those players that you said are taking him in the 3rd and 4th round. If he falls to me in the 5th, I think that's great value in the 5th, but I love Ivory late in the 8th or 9th.
I would rather Bishop Sankey in the 3rd. I'd rather take a chance on a guy like Bishop Sankey, especially in a league where you can have a rookie keeper for the next season. I think that Trent Richardson, where we took him in our 12-team PPR Instagram league, I like him in the 4th or 5th more. I like Ray Rice later, even though he's missing 2 games.
Jennings.
I'm not a huge Chris Johnson guy, but where is good enough for you to draft Chris Johnson?
Late 4th or early 5th, I think that's good because I would take all those guys over Chris Johnson, like you said, and those are going to be the guys who are going in the 3rd and 4th round.
I mean, Ray Rice, I think, may right now, like we got him in the 6th in our 12 team, but I think that he may rise up a little bit. So
to me, he's going to rise up, and Trent's going to rise up because of the absence of Vic Ballard going forward.
No doubt about it. All right, everybody. Steve and myself, we're from a small beach town south of Boston. It's called Marshfield. we're both extremely proud to be from there, even though you moved out, it's not staying loyal at all to the town, just moving out and saying, I'm out of here. I'm leaving this town in the rear view.
I'm going up 22 miles.
That's right. We love the town, the people, the atmosphere. In July of 2011, one of our own died in a boating accident. His name was Zach Woods. One of Steve's good friends started a softball tournament in order to help give donations to a fund in Zach's family, in Zach's name for his family. His parents started it. I think it's only right we touch on that, exploring my co-host Uncle Stav in his natural habitat, a softball tournament. Dave, you can hit the video. What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick Lesagor with the Dirty Water News Fantasy Football Show. We got special press passes here for the Softball Invitational that my co-host, Steve Picco, has been graciously invited to perform. So we're going to catch up with Steve and maybe get some audience and team player reactions here coming up. Very important situation right now.
Bubba Booey, Howard Stern's penis, Bubba Booey! Woo!
Very nice.
Steve took care of stuff right there.
That was Steve?
Yeah, just tagged him out.
I'm here with co-host Steve Picco, who had the play of the game to end it. You guys ended up winning the game. What was the final score?
We won 11-5. It was 11-0 going into the game until the last inning. Put a good charge in us, but we held on. Defense stuck, and I was able to make a play to end the game.
Yeah. Now explain what was going through your head on that play. I mean, it was crazy. It was bedlam out there. They made a nice run there in that inning, scored 5 runs or so. And what was going through your head?
Just get the last out. You want 3, and you want to get off the field and get the W. That's really what you want. That's what you wake up in the morning for.
At the Softball Invitational, this is what you live for. Plays like that to end the game. Steve, thank you so much for the press pass.
Hey, thanks. First of all, I just want to thank everybody out there. Thank all my fans. And
Thank the cameraman.
And especially Seth Wilkins, the engineer of the show.
What's going on, guys? We're here with Tucker Silva. He's one of the organizers of the event. Tucker, just explain the event real quick and what it means for the community in Marshfield here and how awesome it is that you're putting on this great event.
Yeah, so this event started 7 years ago where Craig Power and myself and a couple other guys, we were just sitting in the basement watching the celebrity local all-star softball game. That's before the all-star game and everybody hates it. So we were like, yeah, we should just do that and screw around or whatever. So we played our first game at Tower Ave, and then, long story short, it's really taken off since then. And then we lost one of Marshfield's dear friends, Zach Woods, 3 years ago, and so we decided to make the event about him. And so now we're raising money for the Zach Woods Foundation. We have a tent set up with all the Z Woods apparel, and we're selling T-shirts and everything. And the man behind all of this is really Craig Power, though, and he puts this all together. He gets the PA system, gets all the captains scheduling together, and we see this event growing every single year. I think we're up to 85 people this year.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, we started out with like maybe 25 people, maybe.
It seems like it's really successful. It's really taken off. Just real quick, how many fantasy leagues are you in this year? How many guys you got going?
Oh, geez, I'm in 4 fantasy leagues this year. One PPR, which I joined last year, and the others are just standard scoring.
Any with Steve Picco?
No, actually, but that might change in the near future. You never know.
That's 2 or 3 automatic wins a year.
Yeah.
And how much do you value Steve on the team here? He made the game-winning play there to end that first game for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that was in the first inning, which was awesome because we smoked them. Yeah. Anywho, number 2 overall pick, and I drafted Steve Picco because he's a gamer, he's good at softball, and he's great to have in the team. Good chemistry guy, so glad to have him aboard.
That's my captain.
Yeah,
That's my captain.
That's right. And
That's my quarterback.
Hey, by the way, I'm wearing this ridiculous Sonic hat because our themes change every year, and this year are classic video games. So we're Team Sonic, obviously.
Sonic.
Last year was HBO shows. Before was Mars. So we were Team Raffles one year. Beers we've had, cocktails. So this year's video games. Next year, who knows? You know, we always come up with something crazy. So
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, that'll be it for this segment. And sweet.
Love your mom.
And we're here with Craig Power, another one of the organizers that puts on the event. Tell us a little bit more, elaborate on what Tucker said about the event earlier.
Well, yeah, it all began as just kind of, it was a mess at the beginning, but now that we've been doing this for like 6 or 7 years, it's just a cool way to bring like all of our friends from Marshfield together, get people together, have a good time. It's softball, it's easy. You just kind of like have, go out there, positive attitude, and just have a blast. But it's great because now we get to do it for. That's epic.
I would have warned you. It wasn't that close.
Yeah, I gotta fuck it.
All right.
All right, and we are back. That was the Steve Picco softball tournament experience. Steve, do you want a quick blurb about you taking home the title with Tucker and Team Sonic?
Yeah, we just straight crushed it. We had no respect that day. Everybody thought we were going to lose. My captain Tucker, who you saw in the video, and also Phil Vercoloni, they just kept stressing to us no one was respecting us. And we took that onto the field, and every at-bat, that's all I was thinking about. Used plenty of sunscreen. We're lotioning it in, and it was just a great time. I had fun meeting everybody.
Right. I see you met Sunscreen Guy. Sunscreen Guy was out there, Phil Vercoloni.
Yep.
Really likes to
I call him
push
Captain
sunscreen.
because I respect him, and you guys don't respect him. But
nobody was respecting you. Tucker Belichick with the amazing speech, getting the troops, rounding the troops together here. The beautiful face you're seeing on your computer screen right now is that of Craig Power. Glorious beard right now, sir.
Thank you very much.
That is
very beardy
pretty
today.
amazing. He was he's an organizer of that softball tournament of the video you just saw. Craig is brought to you by the CBS Fantasy Party on August 23rd. Analyst Jamey Eisenberg, good friend of the show, Dave Richard and Adam Aizer will be at the CBS Scene in Foxborough answering all your questions and drafting with you as the good folks over at CBS will be handing out free prizes. There's going to be raffles. The event starts at 10 a.m. right in front of Gillette Stadium. Don't forget to go down there and enjoy the day with CBS. Steve and I will be there, hopefully, with Caitlin. Her commitment wanes, so we don't know what's going to go on.
Caitlin.
But hi, Caitlin. So we'll be there as well, and that is the deal. That's who Craig is brought to you by. Craig, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Wow, I'm pretty psyched.
That's
here.
a pretty
this is
huge
great.
Pretty awesome.
Now I'm really amped up. Let's do this.
Jamey Eisenberg will definitely appreciate that. Craig, overall, it seems as though with this softball tournament, first off, when I went, I sort of expected it to be more of like a jokey, like let's have fun, like atmosphere, and it was like dead serious. I was afraid to like ask people for interviews. Like I pulled Steve aside and I was like, "Hey, do you mind if like can Tucker do an interview?" And he's like, "I don't know.
We're too busy winning."
He's like, "I gotta check."
You just the day begins all fun and games, but then people get locked.
It was
in
pretty serious.
Around round 2 or 3,
right?
A couple beverages go down.
We'll touch on that aspect a little bit later, but How did Steve's team rig the outcome? Because I feel like there was a working of the 1918 White Sox World Series situation.
It's interesting. As an organizer, I feel like I'm guilty of something for letting this happen. You know what I mean? There's definitely been a cloud over my head all week.
He knew Steve was the real deal, and when Steve fell to him with the second pick. If you were that good, first off, you should have went first overall. Let's be honest.
I was a sleeper at 2.
Right.
Well,
sleeper at 2.
First year we like to go. Typically, you'll see guys go by the book for what happened last year. You know what I mean? We like to go on record. Steve was a big-time sleeper in that category. Won't happen again.
Right.
Happen again. Slipping all the way to second overall.
That's
pick.
right. I thought that was straight robbery.
Pick of the draft, Tuck.
How long do you plan on doing the softball tournament for?
I would say basically until I'm. Till I'm in the ground.
Yeah, it's been really successful, and
I would say so. It felt really successful this year. There's always things that we're always trying to improve it and things like that, make things feel smoother. Sometimes you look around and people don't know where the heck they're going, but for the most part, I felt like it was pretty successful. So I'm always trying to up our game.
Perfect. And I would normally not do this, but can you bring the mic closer to your face?
I can
Thank you.
do that.
All right, Craig, we're going to play a little game we like to call Keep or Sweep, and we literally thought of that name yesterday, I think.
It just rolls off the tongue. It's just nice.
It actually was nice. Steve is good with not as good at softball, but he's good at the ideas of the
Pretty
show.
comparable to names of segments and softball.
Right.
So really good.
We're all slaves to his rhyme book, just like us.
We give you 2 players based on position and pick one. So don't look at the computer screen, and we'll give you
Don't
those.
look at my sheet either.
And Steve, please play along.
Eyes straight ahead.
All right.
Steve, play along
You got
as well. Tom Brady or Colin Kaepernick?
Fantasy's got to be Kaepernick.
Okay.
Kaepernick as
Just
well.
those extra rushing yards are going to make a difference.
I like him already.
Tom Brady or Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson.
Dude,
extra
I
rushing
love it.
yards.
Russell
And
Wilson.
listen, it pains me to say this. This is an
it's okay.
American hero we're talking about here that I'm dogging
Right.
on camera.
Right. I think
No, you're just being 100% right. That's what you're doing.
It's the truth. I know how to play the game.
we have Steve and I have a tab bet on that where I have Brady over Russell Wilson for the year, and he will be owing me many a beer. All right, Colin Kaepernick or Russell Wilson?
First of all, it depends on if Gronk stays healthy.
That's
what
right,
was that?
for sure.
I would say just because I trust him more, Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson or
Yeah.
RG3?
Russell Wilson.
Brady or RG3.
Oh, you switching it
RG3.
around?
It's gotta be
I'm
RG3.
going with the best. I'm going.
I'm
boom.
just
So you're
kinda
taking
judging
over?
on-
Okay.
Well, it's these rushing touchdowns that they sneak in there with. You know what I mean? RG3 is a rushing touchdown guy. Kaepernick is too. Russell Wilson, he's just consistent.
Yep.
More consistent than those guys. That's why I say him above the 3 or 4 of them.
RG3 or Andrew Luck?
Andrew Luck.
All right.
RG3.
RG3. And lastly, Andrew Luck or Matty Ice?
Oh my God, this is tough. Now you're hurting me. Andrew Luck.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan. Perfect.
Yeah. I like Matty Ice this year too.
I don't
That was a
know
tough one.
how it happened, but you were both wrong. Ray Rice or Rashad Jennings?
Ray Rice. Rashad Jennings is going to lose that job to Andre Williams by week 10.
Oh, that's a Boston pick right there and a half.
Ray
Love
Rice, Rashad Jennings, or Shane Vereen? And
Ray
Steve,
Rice.
I did that for you. Ray Rice over those two. Okay.
Yeah.
Steve?
Ray Rice. No, Rashad Jennings.
Rashad. I was
Sorry.
going to say,
Yeah,
you just
threw something in my ear.
Yeah, Rashad Jennings. How many opportunities has he had to win the job wherever he's been? Well, I guess it's been MJD, but what are you going to do?
I'm actually really high on Rashad Jennings this year, and Steve and I have touched on it just because David Wilson goes down now, and there's no clear-cut guy behind him. And the owner has come out and said that he considers Rashad Jennings a bell cow back, and I certainly don't see that. But in the games that he was getting 20-plus carries, he was really producing over in Oakland last year. He had 5 games of 20-plus carries, and I thought it was really intriguing to see him get that workload and turn it into really high fantasy point weeks.
I think Andre Williams is already breathing down his neck, baby.
Love it.
Okay. Ray Rice or CJ2K?
Oh, man. CJ2K. Again, pains me to say this.
Ray Rice.
CJ2K or Ryan Matthews?
Matthews.
Steve?
CJ2K.
Matthews over CJ2K. That's fascinating. What's because Steve and I both aren't high on Ryan Matthews, so what's your fascination with him?
Well, there's something about Matthews. The way when he's looking good, he looks like Foster. There's something about him. He looks like Foster when he's hitting the hole the right way. But I guess it's just the look at this point.
He
tends
he
to
actually
fumble
does
on the goal
look
line.
really good on
He
the
looks
field,
great,
and he
sometimes.
runs smooth.
It's unreal. But the fumbles on the goal line, like last night.
Yeah,
in
he
the
had another one
preseason
last
game,
night.
It's he's eventually going to go. But who's going to take that job from him too? You kind of think about that. I mean,
Right.
Ronnie Brown.
I mean,
is he still over there? I don't know.
It may be more of a they just signed Donald Brown over there from Indianapolis. I think it may be a situation where within the 5-yard line you may see them pass the ball more this season
Woodhead.
than hand the ball off.
Or Woodhead.
Maybe even dump offs to Woody. I mean, it just, like you said, he has issues with the fumbling on the goal line. Certainly has issues with staying healthy, and I think health is a major concern. I was a Ryan Matthews guy 1 year, and I'll never do it again. He's one guy I'm never going to touch in fantasy drafts, just because it's too much, especially where he's going this year. I think it's just too much to invest in a guy that you don't know if he's going to stay healthy from year
I think
to
there's
year.
people on both sides of it now. I mean, like,
certainly.
You and I
For
are
sure.
on this side, and hey, people like the 1,200 yards he had last year.
He's going to be one of the more intriguing guys in fantasy this year.
I think people always just look at it and they're like, one of these years. Is this the one?
Yeah, this
is
is
the
the
one
year.
Oh, for
with
sure.
him. And I'm not saying this is the year, but I just look at the competition. I've never been a Donald Brown guy.
Right.
I mean, ever
Yeah.
since Peyton Manning, yelling at him,
I-
I've just never been a Donald Brown guy. And last year, I don't know, even though he had a pretty nice year for the second half of the season last year, it's still just kind of like,
I'm
I
with
don't
you.
know. Andrew Luck can make anybody look good, and that was more blaming the offensive line, in my opinion, in Indy. I thought they were so bad that it was just dump-offs to Brown. And
I actually felt like when they handed Brown the ball, he was rather impressive in the time that he got, especially when Trent Richardson was traded. When Trent Richardson came in, and he obviously he came on. He had that touchdown first week with Indy, and then he kind of fell off the map. So in terms of a guy like Donald Brown, he's not going to see. I don't see him getting much playing time unless there's an injury. It was rather head scratching for me to see them sign him. And then the thought was, well, Woody's going to be a free agent in a year. Well, then they just signed him to an extension.
Yeah.
So it's one of those situations that's kind of head-scratching. But I like Danny Woodhead more than anybody else in that running back rotation in San Diego. Ryan Matthews or Reggie Bush?
Reggie.
Bush.
Got to go Reggie.
Okay. So you essentially like Reggie Bush the most out of that whole group?
That whole group, yeah, compared to CJ2K, who, I don't know, I don't trust Geno Smith. As of right now, his starting quarterback is Geno Smith, keep in mind.
Yeah.
If it was with Vic, I would look at it and say, okay, maybe there's something there. But as long as it's Geno, I don't know. I can't be putting
I pass on
anybody
every
over
jet
CJ,
if Geno's the quarterback.
CJ2K. Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to the wide receiver position.
Here we go.
Steve, I feel like giving your input is kind of confusing the show a little bit. Let's stick to Craig for this for the wide receiver.
Well, you already
segment
know
here.
my answer for this one.
Yeah, no, I do, and it's already wrong. Mike Evans or DeAndre Hopkins?
Oh, my God. Mike Evans.
Mike Evans or Danny Amendola?
This is so hard. Mike Evans, just because he'll be on the field more.
Nice.
See, Steve, that's what we do. We ask the hard questions.
He's answering them right. Mike
Yeah.
Evans all the way.
Yeah, I love Mike Evans. I really do. But
He's wearing a Texas A&M shirt
yeah,
right now.
I gotta go Mike Evans.
What are the odds?
I gotta go Mike Evans. Come on.
Mike Evans or Kelvin Benjamin?
Just because he's the only target, Kelvin Benjamin.
Kelvin Benjamin or Cecil Shorts?
I'm very emotional with these picks. Let's go back to Kelvin Benjamin.
So Kelvin Benjamin or Steve Smith?
I'm losing this. Kelvin Benjamin.
So you like the younger guy? Okay.
Yeah.
Kelvin Benjamin or Eric Decker?
Well, first of all, I just don't see anybody in Carolina that's any good. And the fact that they spent a high pick on him, I just feel like he's going to get the ball. When you look at their wide receivers and everything, Kelvin Benjamin has to get the ball, especially in the red zone.
I'll say this for Kelvin Benjamin: the history of rookie wide receivers isn't good.
Yeah.
So in terms of the situation in Carolina, the guy that's going to benefit the most is going to be Greg Olsen, and I think that he's a tight end that's lopped in with those guys in the middle, but I think he's one of the best, if not the best, of those guys. And I think that Cam Newton's maybe passing a lot and running also. And I'm not a huge guy in terms of the running back situation in Carolina. And I know Steve isn't that high on them either. So I think Greg Olsen's going to be a guy that benefits for sure the most out of anyone in that situation. But
Yeah.
okay,
That's
lastly,
a good point too, because Cam is the ultimate red zone vulture.
right, and Kelvin Benjamin or Eric Decker?
Oh my God, I can't pick a Jet. Kelvin Benjamin.
Geno Smith, Eric Decker, by the way.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right. So Kelvin Benjamin over Eric Decker. Not a homer at all. That is exactly what we wanted on this show, is for you to be a homer.
And I
So
don't like
perfect.
Kelvin Benjamin. That's the thing.
We're
I'm
not-
not a Kelvin Benjamin guy. I was
right.
watching that national championship game, and I felt sick.
Well, for some reason you like him in this group, so fair enough. This is the common man opinion. We don't have time to get to the rest, but I wanted to touch on something real quick. I saw a video recently of you walking around with the trophy that is a Halo helmet, I think, on a platform. And just real quick, just explain what happened. You ended up getting the Stone Cold Stunner.
Yeah.
The music hit.
As you know, the local celebrity softball game is, there's a lot of really heated competition. So what I did, as a dynasty, stepping in as a 2-year-in-a-row champion,
That's
I had
not a
to
dynasty.
go around the diamond and, let everybody have a look at the helmet, if
Right.
you will. So I went around the diamond, and it was at
No
that
respect.
moment that my main rivals, TJ Jordan and Jake Murphy, organized without me knowing at all. The Stone Cold Stunner.
That's right.
At
Yeah,
home,
you
at
were
home plate.
knocked out for a quick 15 seconds. You would have been pinned down, and you would have lost the title, which you ended up. I don't even know if you made the playoffs.
Yeah,
but-
you ended up losing that, and you
Right.
scratched my trophy.
Made
Make
the
sure it's
playoffs.
cleaned
Right.
up before it comes to me.
Made the playoffs.
Right.
That is a fact.
You made the playoffs until next year when Jesse Wilkins and I enter this softball tournament. We're about to take it down. All right, everybody. That's it for episode 14 of the show. You can follow us on Twitter at Nick Lesegor, at Uncle Stav.
And Craig.
What's your Twitter?
At Mitch Reinhardt.
At Mitch Reinhardt, if you'd like to talk to him about his awful fantasy football opinions. And by awful, I mean amazing.
Can I
Go
change
out and get Kelvin Benjamin.
Can I change Kelvin Benjamin
Too
to
late,
Mike
bud.
Evans?
Too late. Already passed it. You love Kelvin
had your
Benjamin.
chance.
That's right. At Caitlin Jean, the anchor of the show. She'll
Hi,
be
Caitlin.
on next week. Email the show any questions you have, fantasyfootball at dirtywaternews.com. Throw the Instagram a follow at DWN Fantasy Football Show. August 23rd, CBS Scene, 10 a.m. Jamey Eisenberg, raffles, drafts. Either going to answer
Stav.
questions. Stav, Nick, maybe Caitlin. And we will see you guys next week for episode 15 of the podcast. And next Friday night, live on dirtywaternews.com, episode 16. Boys,
Great, love it.
take it easy. Adios.